Hello, everyone. We are here with another episode, and today I have with me Cheryl Jeane, Dr. Cheryl Jeane. So, for over 30 years, Dr. Cheryl has helped people regain their motion, their emotional well being, and with that, their lives. Dr. Cheryl Jeane, is a doctor of physical therapy. And she uses hands on techniques to create the environment necessary for your mind and your body to heal, for you to take back your life through personal empowerment. She owns and operates Therapeutic Wellness in Denham Springs, Louisiana, where she has treated hundreds of patients with the John F. Barnes Myofascial Release approach, for which she holds numerous certifications. Cheryl Jeane was first introduced to John Barnes' myofascial release approach in the early 90s during her physical therapy school. So in the early 2000s, she worked with other John Barnes trained therapists and incorporated the knowledge she collectively learned into her work. So in 2019, she started her own journey. The experience and wisdom she's gained during her 30 years plus years has culminated into a revolutionary approach to healing the body, the mind, and the spirit. And every patient's needs are different and often ever changing. Dr. Cheryl enjoys creating custom healing programs specific to each individual's unique needs and goals. And she treats patients of all ages with a range of physical and emotional symptoms. She loves learning and helping others, and she's consistently growing in her knowledge through professional certifications, schooling, and studying new approaches. So tell us what got you here? What made you become a physical therapist?
Well, I have always wanted to be one. So back when I was in ninth grade, I said I wanted to be a physical therapist. And at that time, it was because I said I didn't want to change bedpans. And I didn't think physical therapists did that. They do. They don't change. It depends on what setting you're in. But anyway, so that's why I knew I said I wanted to go into something in the wellness field. But my father was older. He was 58 when I was born. So he ended up in physical therapy probably it wasn't when I was in high school. So probably around ninth grade when I decided that's what I wanted to do. And I knew because he was old, he was going to die. And so that was a concern to me. And he did die when I was 16. I was still in high school. But what he really taught me and what my mother taught me after that and what my stepfather taught me after that is you can live until you die. And that's why I do what I do. My father, even though he had had a slight stroke, was still, teasing people, teasing the kids, playing with them, very playful. Um, and that was till he died. My mother in her 70s was able to put my daughter on her hip and run into the house. My stepfather at 84 was able to lay flat on his belly, play on the floor with her. My daughter was 4 at the time and get up without going any of that. Just got up. So that's really what I want for my people. So that's my story of how I became a physical therapist and why I just want to help people be able to live and move as freely as possible all their life.
I love that. But you're not just a traditional physical therapist. And you say that a lot in a lot of our meetings. I'm not your average physical therapist. So tell us what makes that different.
It is different. I've done traditional physical therapy. I've worked in nursing homes. I've worked in home health. I've done travel therapy. I did a lot of outpatient. But what I found people wanted the most was the hands-on stuff. They want to be touched. And I'd learned about John Barnes, I said in my bio back when I was in school in the early 90s. And then in the early 2000s, I moved to Baton Rouge, and was working at the Baton Rouge General, and that has a regional burn unit. And at the time, and I still do this, they had a lymphedema clinic. So I was working with breast cancer and burns, and that's all soft tissue.
Mhm.
So the person I was working with had gone to 1 or 2 of his classes, so it taught me a couple of his techniques, and we tag teamed and got some phenomenal results on the scarring and on those patients at that time. And then I did home health. And I don't know if you've all ever done home health if you're in the therapy realm, but when you're in the hospital and you're discharged to go home, they make sure you can get out of a hospital bed, in and out of a hospital bed. They make sure you can go into this big, wide hospital bathroom and you can get on and off the toilet in this big, wide toilet bathroom into an easy tub. Make sure you can do all that and you're independent with all self-care and you can go home. And then I'd see them home health. I can't do squat because their bathroom is way down the hall or has a little narrow doorway that their walker can't even make it through. And their bed is either 6 feet tall or on the ground and they can only get in on one side. So I really was looking at the whole system and not just the client. So that's where I really started looking globally at them. And then I realized that I was their person, some of them. I was the only person that was going to get them out of bed and get them back to doing something. And so that it really helped me see globally and think globally. I remember one time I had decided that I seen both the man and wife, and I had decided that their throw rugs were dangerous because I could easily trip over them. And I picked up all, I don't know, 30 of them. There's a pile of them. I went back the next day. They were all on their floor. So I learned from that. I'm going into their home. It is their space. And that's what I take with me now. When I'm treating people, it is your body, it is your space. And if I say something or if I do something, it's your body and your space. We have conversation about it. And maybe I don't need to touch someplace. Maybe the pressure's a little too hard. Maybe it's a little too light. Whatever people say, it's their body and their space. And so that's that got me thinking globally. Then down here in 2016, we had a flood. Mm-hmm. And when my clients started coming back to me after they could start coming back, I realized it didn't matter what their diagnosis was. It could be back pain, it could be neck pain, it could be shoulder pain, it could be whatever. And they were, it was PTSD. So it didn't matter where the pain was, I was treating PTSD. And so there was that. And then I had a client who had been T-boned on a road coming home from work. And if she came to me straight from work, her body was way more tense than if she came to me from home because she went past the intersection where she was T-boned. So I started going to some of John Barnes's classes, and then it really is a modality. It's a treatment that needs to be individualized. I couldn't really do it in a traditional clinic because you don't have time to hold someone's space for someone and work on them for 30 to 60 minutes. And it really is a private time. It shouldn't be, it can be done in a clinic, but it's better for the client if they can have it in a private space. So that's why I went on my own.
I love that. Yeah, I worked in a physical therapy clinic as a tech for a little bit. Them physical therapists literally get on there for like 5 minutes and they're like, all right, cool, you're good, you can go. And I'm like, that's it? That's all we're doing? So, and I've worked with you. I feel like more of your work is not even related to physical therapy, even though it is. It is physical therapy. You're healing the body as well. But it's more, I guess it's kind of like massage, but not for funsies massage. It's therapeutic, which hence the reason for therapeutic wellness. But I know you do myofascial release, which is John Barnes's technique. So tell us a little bit more about what is myofascial release for somebody who doesn't even know.
So John Barnes' myofascial release is different than traditional myofascial release.
Okay.
It incorporates traditional myofascial release, but it's beyond that, I guess is really a better way to say it. If you think of an orange or an animal, down here in southern Louisiana, everyone hunts. I don't know who's listening to this, so we'll go with an orange. Everyone's peeled an orange.
Yes.
And we take the orange off. There's still that white stuff all the way around. And that's around our whole body. That's all the way around our whole body. And then you can take out each segment, which would be your muscle, your organ, your whatever. And there's that film around each segment. Same as in our body. And then you go down, and in each segment, there's a bunch of these little sacs around it with a little squirty orange juice. And that is your cell, like your cell. And so it's around every cell membrane, and it makes it intertwined, web that's your body shape. And traditional myofascial release will go in deep. They'll scrape. They'll use the metal tools. They go in deep. They go this, and it breaks up the cross fibers. And there's a lot of cross fibers you can break, but it's the ground substance that's 70% water that needs to be released. Because think about it. How many times have you told, oh, I got a knot in my muscle?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, what I learned in anatomy and physiology, the muscle doesn't make a knot, but I feel this lump. And we all call them knots. And so I called them a knot with everything else. And it is a lump, and it can be a knot, but it's not muscle. It's the fascial system has really tightened up in that area because our body says, oh, you like this position up here? People get them a lot because we're like this. We're like this. We're like that often. So that gets tight on people. And so almost everyone has them there. And our body says, okay, we'll harden that area to help you hold that position. So when I look at people, I see where their holding patterns are, and I see where it is. And it can be just mechanical. It can be so physical. It can be emotional. It could be a position like if you were all slouched back, reading a book or on your phone or something, and your boyfriend comes in at 19 or 16 and says, we're done. This all of a sudden becomes a position of trauma. Mm-hmm. So we work on that shows up in your body, and we work on that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. That's awesome. So what you're saying is the body holds trauma.
Exactly.
And as a trauma healer, I totally understand this.
Exactly.
Yes, but I love that. And symptoms. So one of the things, even just a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of my clients and I was like, symptoms equal stories, stories equal beliefs, beliefs equal results, whether you want them to or not, positive or negative, it's there. So what are some of the most common symptoms that you see in your clinic?
Often people come to me with some kind of pain. And I don't know if it's because I'm a physical therapist, if it's because it's body work. And physical therapy is my license to touch. Massage therapists do this, occupational therapists do this. Anyone who has a license to touch can do this. That's just my license to touch. And that's why this is my room. It doesn't look anything like a traditional physical therapy room. But so people often come to the table with some kind of pain or problem. Often it's because they've been everywhere and they don't like the answers they've been given. For example, I had someone come in and they said that they wanted to do exploratory surgery and wanted to do some surgery on a gallbladder, wanted to do some surgery on a colon. Someone else came in and her face was swollen and her eyelid was droopy. So they said, well, we'll do surgery to lift your eyelid. And then we'll do surgery on these two toes because they're twisting and hurting you and you got hammer toes. And she didn't want surgery. So all those people got results and had a lot less pain after treatment. Is it a one and done? Typically not. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it takes a lot more, and sometimes the pain just lingers. And I feel like a lot of that is because it's more than just pain. They got to get rid of the emotional component.
So what are some of the emotional things that you notice that do come up, especially whenever, let's say you got somebody, and I know you got a client like this too. Just making sure I'm not squishing cords under here. When somebody comes to you, let's say they got pain in their neck, what are some emotional responses that you've noticed or that they've told you that have come up in that area?
I hear and see releases many ways. So it can be coughing. Sometimes a client coughs, sometimes I cough.
Mm-hmm.
I can be working up here and sinuses start to run. Sometimes it's theirs, sometimes it's mine. So those are physical releases, itching, crawling, zingers, hot, cold, all that. Emotionally, it can be anything. So it can be crying, it can be, I've had laughter, I've had anger, anxiety, fear. I had someone, I was working on her hip and she started squirming. I said, what's going on? She goes, ooh, my hands are getting numb. And I said, well, when does that happen? And I knew she had Raynaud's. I said, is that coming up? And she said, yes. And she goes, yes, this is what it feels like when that comes up. And I said, it had to do with safety. So we did some stuff around safety, and her numbness went away from her hands. And then I was working on her again, and I was up here in the jaw and started squirming again. And I said, your hands going again? And she said, yes. And I said, well, maybe you need to be, if it's a safety thing, maybe, and I was at the jaw, I said, maybe you need to be safe to talk. So it can be anything. I've had people yell into pillows. I've had people, and sometimes people know the story and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know the story. If your body wants you to know the story and you need to know the story, you can know the story, but you don't have to. You can just get rid of the emotion and be going on your way. And it can be from, I had another person who had shoulder pain, and after being worked on, she had a flashback of playing Red Rover when she was 6.
Yeah.
And Red Rover came over and hurt her shoulder. And she was in her 50s or 60s by the time she came to see me. That was a long time ago, but she could remember her shoelaces. She could remember the print on her dress. So it wasn't like it was, oh yeah, that happened once when I was 6. No, it was a very detailed message that she received. So it can be anything. And it doesn't have to be, like the shoulder pain could be from falling out of a tree when you're a kid, from falling down the stairs when you're an adult, from sleeping funny in the car when you're middle-aged, all happening at once.
Yeah. And again, symptoms hold stories. And
Right.
your body's going to hold all those stories. So you mix a different variety of types of healing. So it sounds like you do a little bit more of pranic healing as well as like body coding healing, which is where the mix between the mind body comes into play as well. So you feel what they feel.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel it, sometimes they feel it, sometimes we both feel it.
Yeah. That's the type of work that I do as well. Like I feel whenever, my clients are going through whatever, which will ping, hey, do you have a pain here? And they're like, oh my God, how did you know that? Because I could feel it. If I could feel it and it's not mine, it's yours.
I got
So
a funny story.
go for
I
it.
was working with someone, and I randomly, or she thought it was random. I asked her what happened on such and such a date, and she looked at me and her eyeballs got this big. And she said, how did you know? I said, well, I'm reading your tattoo. And it was a date. That's all her tattoo was, is a date. Anyway, it was just kind of funny. She thought I was really good.
Hey, those happen sometimes though. That's
They do sometimes, but
so
it wasn't that time.
yeah. I know you do yoga as well. You're very big into yoga and also moving your body. Tell us a little bit more about what you find helpful with yoga, what kind of yoga, just different things that can kind of gauge the audience and like what's something I can do at home if I'm in pain or if I'm going through some hurts.
Yeah. I do yin yoga, and I do the yin yoga because you hold 3 to 5 minutes. If you're on my table and I'm working on you, I have my hand on you in one area for at least 3 to 5 minutes for the area to release. So it's a way of taking the table and me home with you. And I often use a ball. I should have one. I don't have one right here.
I don't have
Um,
mine.
it's about that big. It's about the size of a softball, but it's air, so it's squishy. Y'all can't see that at all because you're either looking on the screen this big or you're looking on a screen this big. Anyway, so I use that a lot because the ball will give some pressure. I did get some dryer balls to see if they would work, but they're not quite big enough, but they could work if you're in a pinch. And then it just hold the stretch. And you don't hold it, like if you take your thumb and just bring it back. If I go to this, and you can't, it's a feeling, so you can't really see it. But if I'm going at the max stretch, I can't hold that for 3 to 5 minutes.
I can't do
But if
this.
I go to where I just start to feel it, yeah, it already hurts, doesn't it? If I just start to feel it, then it will release over after the 3 to 5 minutes. It will release more than it would if I just did that for 30 seconds. So it's a slow, gentle stretch for a long period. And there's something magical of that 3-minute mark, is because the whole ground substance, that fascial system, is really starting to release. And sometimes emotions come up with it, sometimes I don't. So I do the traditional, I do more of a yin kind of yoga. There's all kinds out there. They're all great. You can get emotional releases from all of them. I just like the 3 to 5 minutes because it's an extension of my table.
I like that. So I had a thought about that because I was going to ask you as far as like the myofascial. Why do you put your hands on somebody for 3 to 5 minutes? What do you feel underneath your hands?
I feel hard, hot. They say look for the hard, hot, or tender spots, but I don't necessarily feel tender on someone else. I feel hard or hot. Or it's an area where I see, like if someone's pelvis is rotated, I can see it. Or if their shoulders are rounded, I can see it. Or if they're, side bent, so it's an area where I can see that it's tight. So then I put my hands there, and it's the time with pressure, because the water inside of us is a structured water. So it's H3O2 instead of H2O. So some people call it easy water, structured water, whatever. It's biological water. We'll call it that. Make up a new word. But it's the same that's in your fruits and vegetables. So, a carrot has a lot of juice. You can drink carrot juice, but you bite into a carrot or you slice a carrot, it doesn't leak because that water, it has that crystalline nature because it's an H3O2. So then the pressure over time helps it on a crystal. So pressure over time on a crystal will start an energy flow. So it starts to literally melt it. So if you think of honey,
Yeah.
and warming up honey, it makes it more viscous. It makes it more pliable, more flowy.
Okay. And what does that explain what that does in the body?
So if, for example, I don't know if you can see me if I stand up. You can sort of. So if I have, like, say, a C-section scar down here and it is bound down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this. This is where I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it all up in my neck. I don't really feel much here because it's gapping, but there's definitely a problem here, and it's pulling my shoulders forward. You can work up here like this all day long, but until you release that C-section scar where the fascial system has hardened, and it could be from a surgery, it could be from an accident, and it could be just from, the gut feelings that we have all of our lives that we bury because why listen to a gut feeling? So it could be from anything causing that bunching of that fascial system. And because it's a 3-dimensional web, it can go in all kinds of directions.
Yeah. Women with trauma too in that area in their pelvic region. So if there's women who have been molested
Yeah.
or raped, or I know you've worked on several of those ladies as well, even locally. So we're local together, and I've sent
Yeah.
some ladies to you too. Um, so what do you notice when somebody is on your table? Because I know you've said people have different reactions and different ways for releasing. Tell us a little bit more about the different types of releasing that you've seen in your practice and what that can look like, so that if somebody is doing things at home and they feel a release, which let me just say this, most of you know when you have a release. You feel something feels different completely. But physically, there's some things that tend to happen. So, like one of the things that I tell my clients, even in trauma healing, because I work with women all around the US, and now we're international. As of today, we are now international. So, being able to work with some of these ladies, there's things that can happen once you have a release. Are you comfortable sharing some of those things or digging into that topic?
They can be literally anything. If people are stuck in a freeze state of anywhere, and it might be, I fell off my bike and landed on my shoulder. So when I'd go into child's pose, this arm would just shake like it's thawing. So sometimes it's just it's a tremor. Sometimes it's heat. If it's cold, it's usually because you've left that part of your body. And so you're not there. So if you feel cold, if you start breathing into that area, it might help it. Sometimes, a lot of times it's heat. That's probably the most common one. Sometimes it's movement, and it can be just little subtle, I'll be up in the neck and the little subtle head movements. Sometimes they're flipping off the table. One time I had a guy come off the table, I don't know, 2 feet and slam back down on the table. And he goes, "Man, I'm dizzy, just like I was in the car wreck." And I thought, you just hit the car again. And I
Yeah.
don't know if he even was aware that his body did that. So it can be subtle, it can be big, it can be anything in between. After treatment, people have the biggest thing, honestly, I get is, "Man, I had a good poop." And I get the poop emoji a lot because there's a lot of scar tissue in here, and I work in this area because
Yeah.
of the trauma. And if there's a bunch of hoses, so if there's a bunch of hoses in there and they're getting crimped, stuff won't move. So
Mhm.
that's something I hear. Sometimes people get flu-like symptoms. Uh, One lady had a rash. It just came out her body that way. And she said, I took something for it, but probably it was just something that needed to get out. And I probably should have just dealt with it. So you always want to, listen to your body.
Yeah.
And if you need to go, if you feel like you need to go somewhere about it, just go, because just listen to your body and use what's common sense for you. Um, One lady said her arm twitched for 24 hours. It just randomly had a little tick, and then it went away. Most of the time people say, "I feel really light."
Yes. Yeah. I get it.
And that's probably the reaction I hear the most. I let people know some of this other stuff can happen because I don't want them to say, "Ooh, I'm not going to do that again."
Yeah.
I did have one guy come in who'd had an emotional response. He says, "That's not going to happen again, is it?" I said, "I don't know, but every time you come in, you're a different person. I'm a different person." And it didn't happen again with him. But it's just what needed to happen. It was stuck in his body, and that's what needed to come out. And he was willing to go through it, and he was willing to come back. And I think he felt better.
Yeah, I try to prep my clients with, here's what can happen. You could either, like, I had one lady one time who thought she was having a heart attack. She was having a lot of anxiety and just heart palpitations. I'm like, tell me, you need to tell me, because those are important things that we work through. And once we did like another clearing, another release, it went away, completely gone. But those things do matter because your body's going to respond to let go of whatever it is in any way, shape, or form. It's why movement is so important.
Yeah.
So I got a question. People that don't do yoga, like myself, and let me tell you why, because I'm not flexible, and that would be what most people would say. Well, you go to yoga to get more flexible, right? And yin yoga, I know also with some of the work that you do with your yoga classes, they're geared towards emotional releases as well. What would you tell somebody who, number one, can't hold the pose for 3 to 5 minutes, but number two, tends to also hold their breath through stretching? What would you say to that?
If they're really wanting to work on it, you just don't, like, if you have tight hamstrings and you can't sit up and lean forward, then recline back where you feel it. Sit in a chair and put your feet up on something if that's where you feel the stretch. Excuse me. If that's where you feel the stretch, just go to that gentle. And if it means, if you're so tight, you're just kind of at a, I don't know, 20-degree incline on a bed, and that's where you feel the stretch, that's where you go. So that's one thing. And I started out doing yin yoga, but it really is MFR yin or MFR stretch. And in my classes, sometimes people just flat can't get into poses, and I just figure out another way that they can do it for themselves that will release the same area. Sometimes I'm doing multiple things, like it might be a hip and a core. But the other thing, I was at the gym this morning and and I was in a pigeon pose. For anyone knows, that's your knees up like this and you're leaning forward on it. And I said, "This is why I don't tell people they should feel it in their hip, because I don't feel any of this in the hip," which is it's a hip stretch. I felt it all in the opposite side of my core in the front because that's where I was tight. So just getting into a position, and it might be sitting in your chair, just sitting and just kind of going like this, and oh, I feel a little stretch. So we'll just hang out here for a little bit. So you can do that. Because motion is lotion.
Okay. Motion is lotion.
So if you have mobility, you're less likely to fall as you get older. You're less likely to pull something if you're lifting heavy because you have more power. I mean, if you don't have a lot of rotation and you're golfing or you're playing ball, you don't have the power. So, and you're more likely to get injured. I had a golfer come in with thumb pain. His thumb would kill him. And it was at the end of the golf swing. But he had very limited rotation. He had very limited of this. He had very limited of this. And so when he did it, you needed to have all those motions, and the thumb was the end of the line, and that would try to overextend to compensate. And that's what he came in for, was thumb pain. It had nothing to do with his thumb.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing about having fascia in your system, period. It could be in your big toe. Oh, my toe hurts. I got plantar fasciitis. Yeah, that could be coming from your psoas. It could be coming from your neck. It could be coming from
Your
so many
jaw.
different places.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Your jaw.
Oh, your jaw. Yeah, your jaw. There's so many different areas. So what would you tell someone because I know you work locally, but your yoga is online, correct?
It will be.
It is. We are working on putting yoga online.
Yes, it is all set up. I just have to figure out how to do the technical part.
Yeah.
And then yes, it is online when I do it because I just have to figure it out. It's like figuring out a Zoom meeting, I just got to figure out how to do it. And then there we are. But everything's in place to do that.
And you're also building an online platform of resources and like a membership site and different things like that so that people can educate themselves, but also have different exercises and things that they could do to release their own pain, correct?
Yes. So I have a bunch of little videos now, so you could look up neck and be able to say, oh, here's some neck things. But my challenge with doing all that is, like we just said, plantar fasciitis might come from the jaw.
Yeah.
So I have foot pain, and let me do all these foot things. It's not getting better.
Yeah.
Then it's probably not coming from the foot. So that's my challenge with it. And then I'll have the longer classes to go into some of that, and then some question and answer stuff, like what, and you can't, like if someone said, what do I do for my plantar fasciitis? I don't know, because everyone's different.
Right.
So it depends on how you present. It depends on what your fascial story is.
Yeah.
Is how it depends. But it's a resource for people my goal is for it to be a resource for people to be empowered to take back some of their own ability to heal themselves and give some hope to people and say, well, I can do some of this stuff.
Oh, you put yourself on mute.
How did I do that?
I don't even know.
Nowhere's near my screen. I
Oh,
have
your hands weren't near it.
I'm good. Therefore, I'm practicing before I do the yoga online, so it's not all on mute. But I lost my train of thought.
So we're bringing it, I know you and I were discussing bringing it into a membership site where you can also work on people, or you can work with people, excuse me, virtually. So that way you can support them and help them in their pain, different issues, where it's coming from, and educating them in those pieces.
And that was what I was going to say. Do what you can do. You can ice it, you can heat it, you can stretch it, you can use a ball. If you've been on my table or gone through some of my classes, you can try some of the stuff I've done. Try what other people have taught you. If you're still having pain and 2 to 3 days, nothing's changed, go get it checked out by someone local, because it's easier to get something dealt with quickly, and it might be a one-time visit thing versus waiting 6 months and having to go and get treatment for months, and like frozen shoulder or something can take months in
Yeah.
traditional setting.
So I'm going to ask a loaded question.
I may answer or not then.
You'll probably give me the medical answer, but do you believe that some things can be treated in certain ways, that if a doctor's coming in saying, hey, you need to go to surgery to get this and this and this, do you believe that myofascial release can eliminate a decent amount of surgeries in certain ways?
Depends on what it is,
Yeah.
and it depends on how long the problem is. I mean, the lady who is going to have her eye lifted, myofascial release worked.
Yeah.
And the one who's going to have her hammer toes fixed, myofascial release worked. Had a lady come in with a bunion today, and she left, and her feet looked identical, and her toe pain was gone. So it's the worst thing that could happen is your body is in better shape for surgery. The best thing that can happen is you don't need it, in
Yeah.
my book.
Right. So what would you tell someone who maybe they are contemplating, where they've been given that tough decision, the doctor's saying this is the only way? Can you, and I know you're limited with what you can say, but is there some tips or things that you could tell them of what to do first before maybe making surgery as a last resort?
Either travel or find someone local who does John Barnes myofascial release and ask them if that's what they do. That's not necessarily end all be all. It's just the one that I've seen the best results. And I've gone to classes for 30 years, and predominantly all are manual classes because I believe in touching the body. I always have. And there's a lot of other courses out there that can be helpful. But to me, the John Barnes approach is is the bread. And some of these other techniques add butter to it or add jam to it. Um, but the foundation always works better if I start with his techniques. And then
If somebody's looking for somebody that does John Barnes, what would be a good resource that they could find out if they
if
do?
you go to John Barnes, if you look, Google John Barnes under Google, I believe his website is myofascialrelease.com. And there is a website, I think it's Find Your MFR Therapist or something, but if you go to John Barnes's website, there's a tab there that you can find a therapist.
Okay.
And there's people in there. And I think I think you can look worldwide. There's not enough of us. But there's that. And then there is a Facebook private group that you can request to join, MFR Insight. And you can go on there and say, you have to say, like, if I were to write in there, I'd say Cheryl Jeane, physical therapist, all classes, free PEDS minus whatever. Haven't gotten to PEDS yet. And I haven't done the horses one yet. So I would write that so people know where I'm coming from. So you would just say, I'm Macy Lovett client or potential client. I'm looking for someone in, I don't know, Timbuktu, Arkansas.
Perfect. I would like to provide that so that way they have a resource to.
Yeah. Yes.
So, okay. Well, we're at the mark. We're definitely going to bring it back because we got more things to talk about. More than yoga. We got more myofascial release things to talk about, but you gave us a ton of amazing examples and you are a healer and we are grateful for you. Cheryl's done some fabulous work on myself, especially in a pinch last minute. She's also told me quite a lot. So you got a lot of heat in this one area. Have you thought about doing some internal like trauma healing release on yourself? And I'm like, yeah, that piece by piece, but everything is about layers. It's never, you and I both know it's not a one and
Yeah.
done. And
someone explained it really well to me. we spiral. So we either spiral up or we spiral down.
Yeah.
And if you're going through healing, you're going to be spiraling up, hopefully. And it's never linear. But if you, I mean, when you first start hitting something, you might, okay, you're done with that. And then you might find it comes up again later, the same thing, but you're up here now looking at it from this angle versus from this angle. So healing is not linear. It's not something that one person can do. You need a village, and we all should be able to work together. If we can't, then you probably don't want to see that person because their ego's in the way. Just saying. And you find your tribe.
Yeah. I agree. Look, I got my tribe. You and I first met in, what was that, 2018? And we were talking about light. We were talking about all the things coming in, and you were like, all right, I think you go a little bit deeper and a little bit more woo than what I think. And I was like, how far do you want to go? And we became referral partners, but also friends after that as well. So I've enjoyed our friendship in the past.
And
But
lots of education continued on both parts. I've seen your growth, and hopefully you've seen some of me. So
definitely. That's why
because
we're today.
if there's not growth, if you're not green and growing, you're brown and decaying.
I'm not decaying.
So therefore I like to learn.
Same. Love to learn, love to grow. Well, we're definitely going to bring you back. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for your time. We're going to give you guys those resources. And then also, whenever she gets the yin yoga situation set up and starts going live with that, I'll come back through, update the description, and then also update you guys in our groups as well. So any final words, anything that you want to say? Where can people find you?
CherylJeane.com. That's CherylJeane, only one N. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. You can find me.
Yeah, and your page is Therapeutic Wellness.
Therapeutic Wellness.
We'll share all those links as well.
Yeah.
So you guys can get connected with her. Any final words?
And if you've watched this, I believe I should be able to get you a discount or a code or something that you can put in, and your first online yoga class can be free.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I'll figure out how to do that. And otherwise, if you don't see a code down there, then you contact me and say, hey, what
Hey,
about that yoga class?
watch this episode. Give me my free class.
Yes.
We'll make it happen.
And go say it again.
I said, and we'll make it happen for you.
Exactly. Because I'm much more hands-on than I'm technical. I'll be right there with you. So we'll make it happen.
You can message me, you guys. I'm a little bit more tech savvy.
There you go.
Certain things, but either way, we got you covered. Well, thank you. Super excited for this.
Thank you.
And yeah, y'all go to her, follow all of her social media. And if you have questions, Cheryl is also an open book. She's there to guide you and there to help you. So she'll be happy to answer. But other than that, see you guys on the flip side.
Thank you.